Imagine a leader who uses human bodies as garden lighting. A ruler whose laughter is the last sound you ever hear. When the Roman Empire achieved supreme authority, it didn't just spawn emperors. It unleashed a series of terrifying tyrants who turned governance into a grim, public spectacle. These were men who didn't just rule by fear. They sculpted their empires out of pure malice, transforming the highest office into a mechanism of unimaginable torment. Their violence wasn't concealed. It was the main act, echoing from the Senate floor to the flickering light of a living pyre. This isn't just history. It's a deliberate, documented choreography of state-sanctioned savagery. Before we plunge into the darkness, make sure to subscribe and let us know in the comments which city you're watching from. For the Roman public, Emperor Nero was less a statesman and more a spectacular, gilded celebrity. Yet, behind the lyre and the marble statues lurked a genuinely disturbing tyranny. Known as Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, his 54 to 68 CE descended into infamy, not just for punishment, but for making torment a form of entertainment. In 64 CE, the Great Fire devoured Rome for 9 days. Whether Nero deliberately started the blaze to clear space for his massive architectural dream, the Domus Aurea, Golden House, remains disputed. What is certain is his calculated response. He blamed the nascent Christian community. What followed was a public theater of death. As recorded by Tacitus in Annals 15.44, Christians were subjected to grotesque forms of execution. They were covered in animal hides and torn apart by dogs, crucified or set aflame. Nero's most horrifying innovation was coating victims in pitch and setting them alight to serve as living torches, illuminating his evening banquets. Death was literally woven into the decor for Rome's elite guests. Nero's fixation with pain extended beyond public displays. He frequently compelled senators and nobles to commit suicide, sometimes after prolonged psychological torture. Even his own mother, Agrippina the Younger, who helped install him, was eventually murdered on his orders following failed attempts using a collapsing ceiling and a rigged boat. His cruelty blurred the line between imperial policy and perverse spectacle, turning torture into the very language of Roman authority. Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, famously known as Caligula, oversaw one of the shortest yet most infamous imperial eras, 37 to 41 CE. Initially hailed with hope after Tiberius's death, Caligula quickly dissolved into a regime of erratic brutality and theatrical, humiliating violence. Suetonius suggests Caligula embraced the philosophy, "Let them hate me so long as they fear me." His rule was founded on this deliberate cultivation of terror. Under Caligula, insults and execution were inextricably linked, and his humor often dictated a person's fate. He tested loyalty by publicly insulting senators and fabricating treason charges. Trials were predetermined farces, and Caligula often attended, laughing or jeering as death sentences were issued. Cassius Dio recounts how Caligula would order an execution during dinner and have the corpse dragged away while guests continued their meal. His love of carnage was so extreme that during dull arena games, he reportedly ordered whole sections of the audience to be thrown to the beasts, just to maintain the necessary flow of blood. Even high-status women were not spared. He degraded senators' wives and daughters, then ridiculed their disgraced husbands in the palace halls. Caligula's laughter ceased to be a sign of joy. It became a chilling warning. Though his reign ended quickly, assassinated by his own Praetorian Guard after only 4 years, he vividly demonstrated how unchecked power, twisted by malice, could weaponize simple mirth into an instrument of profound terror. The reign of Domitian, 81 to 96 CE, formerly Titus Flavius Domitianus, was defined by strict, rigid control and brutality that was cold and calculated. Unlike Nero's pyrotechnics or Caligula's flamboyant madness, Domitian's violence was methodical and almost entirely hidden. His cruelty was rarely public. It was executed behind closed doors, precise, clinical, and often invisible to anyone not directly involved. 399 words. Ancient historians, notably Suetonius and Tacitus, detail a regime characterized by pervasive, suffocating anxiety. Domitian rigorously enforced and amplified the maiestas, treason statutes, not to protect Rome, but to weaponize simple accusations. Under his calculated tyranny, even the slightest expression, a spoken word, a physical motion, or outright silence, could be redefined as disloyalty. A nervous glance, a sentence left unfinished, or a name spoken with the wrong inflection could trigger sudden interrogation, imprisonment, or execution. The goal was more than removing rivals. It was systematically dissolving all trust among Roman citizens. Domitian's preferred tool of control wasn't the vast public arena, but the private chamber. He fostered a network of secret spies and delators, informants, who flourished in a climate where informing on others earned reward, and keeping quiet could cost a life. Torture, which Roman tradition usually restricted to slaves, was extended under Domitian to encompass nobles and senators, subjected to physical duress during questioning. His private interrogation facilities, never officially designated but referenced by later authors, became zones of cold, systemic cruelty, where opposition was silenced and confessions were extracted through sheer terror, not justice. Pliny the Younger, reflecting on the period after Domitian's death, described an era where informers swarmed and no man dared to speak his thoughts. The emperor's grand, beautiful palaces paradoxically became symbols of his rule, ornate, vast, and terrifyingly silent. Executions were often carried out without warning. Victims simply vanished without a trace, their assets seized, their identities erased. Public trials were exceptionally rare. Punishment was swiftly, silently, and privately delivered. He projected his absolute control even over the very fabric of society, insisting on the title Dominus et Deus, Lord and God, a demand that highlighted a profound dismantling of republican customs, not mere theatrical ego. The Senate, once a center for deliberation, was reduced to a ceremonial body. Its members existed not by law, but solely by Domitian's permission. When his assassination finally occurred in 96 CE, executed by palace staff, including his own wife's collaborators, the sense of relief across Rome was palpable. The Senate immediately condemned his memory, issuing a formal damnatio memoriae, and his statues were torn down. Yet, the chilling legacy of his governance endured. Domitian didn't broadcast his cruelty from balconies. He meticulously buried it within silent marble corridors. His ultimate reminder is that fear doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and no one dares to reply. Lucius Aurelius Commodus, the son of the revered Marcus Aurelius, ruled from 180 to 192 CE, marking a stark break from his father's philosophical leadership. Commodus made no effort to uphold the image of the Stoic Roman statesman. Instead, he systematically dismantled the imperial court, transforming it into his personal stage and the empire into an extension of his own volatile ego. Under his reign, cruelty transcended political necessity or secrecy. It became performance art, with the emperor himself as the headliner. Commodus's fixation with the gladiatorial ring was profoundly literal. He frequently entered the Colosseum dressed as a gladiator, armed not with imperial authority, but with weapons. Ancient writers, including Cassius Dio, claim Commodus personally fought and killed hundreds of opponents in the arena. In reality, these bouts were fixed. His adversaries were often wounded, disarmed, or simply ordered to yield. But the emperor's need for domination was insatiable. He craved greater spectacle, once slaughtering dozens of exotic animals in a single day, including a lion, an ostrich, and even a giraffe, acts of pure amusement, not military prowess. His distinct horror lay in transforming state violence into personal, self-gratifying entertainment. Roman citizens were compelled to watch as their emperor defiled the hallowed ground of the arena, renaming the months after his own titles, and demanding to be worshipped as the Roman Hercules. Any dissent, whether open critique or quiet implication, was instantly met with removal and often execution. One senator who dared to laugh during an arena bout was later discovered deceased. Under Commodus, even the act of amusement became a grave hazard. When he was finally assassinated in 192 CE, strangled by a professional wrestler at the behest of his inner circle, the relief within the Senate was immediate and profound. But Rome had already witnessed the highest office in the world transmute into a violent spectacle, and its leader into a deadly performer. Under Commodus, cruelty didn't hide in law, nor whisper in private chambers. It marched openly into the arena and demanded thunderous applause. The reigns of Nero, Caligula, Domitian, and Commodus were not just isolated eras of cruelty. They were imperial demonstrations of utterly unchecked power, where true governance dissolved into sheer domination and human lives were reduced to mere stage props. These emperors didn't just rule Rome. They deeply corrupted its moral foundations, weaponizing fear, silence, and the act of death itself. Their collective legacies prove how authority, when completely detached from moral restraint, inevitably consumes the very civilization it is meant to protect. What does their reign reveal about the psychological impact of absolute power in imperial systems? Comment below. As Tacitus wrote of Nero's Rome, "They perished not for the public good, but to gratify the cruelty of one." Thank you for watching this descent into darkness. If you found this history compelling, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe, and let us know in the comments which city you're watching from.